Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the ImPerfect Podcast. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Kennedy. Join us on this week's episode as we discuss intriguing topics and people of interest that will inspire us to explore all of the unique pieces of ourselves.
We are all imperfectly perfect.
We're glad you're here.
Hello, and welcome back to our next episode of the ImPerfect Podcast. Today, we're going to have a look at Thanksgiving, which was just this last weekend. Today, we're going to look at the history of Thanksgiving and explore the topic of thankfulness.
Yeah, so the main question is, where did the concept of Thanksgiving as an actual holiday come from? And I didn't know this before preparing this episode, but the first noted Thanksgiving in the U.S. Involved pilgrims of Plymouth.
Plymouth.
I always mispronounce it. Plymouth, Massachusetts. So after almost half of the settlers were killed after the winter of 1620, they formed an alliance with the indigenous Wampanoag tribe, and the tribe taught fishing, planting, and hunting to the settlers. And then the following autumn in 1621, they celebrated together in a 3-day feast of what was probably an assumed goose, corn, codfish, and lobster.
Yeah, not quite the turkey and
Right.
we have of today, but later generations of colonists practiced various days for Thanksgiving, but theirs were based more on religion, harvest, positive battle outcomes, and even the weather. Not 1977, that wouldn't be too long ago, 1777, it was decreed that they celebrate a National Day of Thanksgiving in their victory over the British. But the dates of the celebration were weeks and months different sometimes across the 13 colonies.
Yeah, so just interesting that it all started with, after a bunch of deaths after a hard winter, they decided to form an alliance and learn lots of skills from the indigenous tribe called Wampanoag. And then that, to think that that's where it maybe stemmed from. And again, this is the US side, but just very strange. Not at all what I pictured. I kind of pictured some, I don't know, old folk tale or something, and then they decided to make it a holiday, which is, anyway, because I'm referring to like Christmas and things like Christmas, it's everybody knows the meaning behind it, but Thanksgiving, it's like, oh, who knows, we just eat turkey and get around with family, and that's the end of it.
Well, it seemed like different groups seemed to have these celebrations of thankfulness, but they were all kind of scattered all over the place. So this chick named Sarah Hale, who coincidentally was also the author of Mary Had a Little Lamb, she was an author and she was a go-getter, and she began a campaign to establish Thanksgiving as a national day to collectively give thanks following the harvest season. And also, she had a thought in her head it would help unite their nation as it faced potential civil war. So she appealed to Abraham Lincoln, and after many years, finally in 1863, he declared the last Thursday of November as Thanksgiving Day in the U.S.
And then years later, this holiday weekend also became the start of shopping season before Christmas. So, and then later in the 20s, NFL football weekend and Macy's parade weekend. So it just kind of evolved from there. But yeah, and I don't know, I guess as a Canadian, and we're going to get into this, but I don't think of Thanksgiving as the holidays starting. I think of the holidays starting once November 11th has come and gone, but that's for different reasons. But we are going to get into that. So it's interesting that in the U.S. it was kind of what sparked the Christmas holiday coming near.
Mm-hmm. And it was such a big thing between the Macy's Day Parade and the football weekend that the shopping just exploded down there. It gave them extra time before Christmas, a whole month.
Mm-hmm.
And it affected the economy so much that in 1939, President Roosevelt actually tried to move the holiday up by a few weeks to further boost the economy. But I think the people saw what he was up to and said, yeah, we're not having that. And so eventually it got reverted back to the original date.
So funny how it's all a mentality, right? Like, oh no, we got to keep Thanksgiving for this weekend. And we see what you're up to. You just want to like boost the economy more. And so by pushing the holiday 2 weeks forward, it was like, or before, it seemed terrible. But it's so funny. People can shop anytime, but it's like this sense of urgency. Okay, Thanksgiving has happened. So now I have to go out and buy all the things.
Yeah, it's true. And I guess we're also looking at the difference between the US and Canada because in the US it is actually closer to Christmas,
Right.
right? And for us, it's a lot earlier.
Mm.
Canada had a long history of giving thanks even before the European settlers arrived. The First Nations across Turtle Island have had traditions of Thanksgiving for surviving the winter. They were thankful for that and just receiving crops and game. So they celebrated that in their own special way. And, you know, they didn't need European settlers to come over and teach them how to do it. They were doing it all the way along. So when the settlers got here, they kind of meshed their two styles a little bit. And I think in some cases agreed to help each other.
Yeah.
So there were lots of different traditions that the Europeans had when they came, feasting, prayer, dance, and even the indigenous population had a lot of those same celebratory ways. And they did something called potlatch. So I actually looked that up. Do you know about that, Kennedy?
I
What that
remember
actually?
actually, Mom and I had the opportunity to go to a powwow in Elsie Pugtug. I guess it would be about a month ago now or close to it, but I remember them talking about it, but I don't know what it is.
It's kind of like a gifting ceremony, like to keep. I believe it stems from trying to equally distribute wealth
Hmm.
or goods, and so they would use that. I believe I have that correct. They would use that as part of their celebration sometimes, and they just had different ways of giving thanks.
What a concept to make sure that there was equal wealth. So
Yeah,
simple yet so complex, I guess, eh? I love
right.
that. So the first recorded Canadian Thanksgiving took place in 1578. So that was actually 43 years before the first American Thanksgiving.
Interesting.
So this was when English explorer Martin Frobisher, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. We looked it up before we started. How do we pronounce this? But who knows? And his crew gave thanks through communion for their safe arrival in Frobisher Bay. In present day, it's known as Nunavut, and which was then Newfoundland. So I guess we beat the US to the punch when it came to Thanksgiving for different reasons.
And also on celebrating it. So let's look at why the Canadians' Thanksgiving is celebrated earlier. So ours is the second Monday of October, and in the US, I believe we said it was the third, what is it, Thursday of.
November, yeah.
So I think the decision to celebrate Thanksgiving earlier for us was because of a couple different reasons. Our climate and harvest times were, kind of earlier because we're a little bit more north. And also, I believe the decision was made as a result of the First and Second World Wars, so that the celebration of Remembrance Day would not fall on the same weekend as Thanksgiving.
Mm. And the Canadian Parliament actually still officially declares Thanksgiving as a day of general thanksgiving to Almighty God for the bountiful harvest with which Canada has been blessed. I did not know that that's how it's referred as by the Canadian Parliament.
Yeah. I'm surprised it is still written that way, but
Yeah.
that's pretty cool because, Canada certainly has been blessed in a variety of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, the mandate for Thanksgiving isn't observed, the same for all Canadians in its entirety. But the ideas of being thankful and spending time with family, having the day off work, however you want to celebrate it,
Right.
sharing, most people get together for a meal, a lot do, and a lot eat turkey. So those principles, I think, of spending time with family and having a meal perhaps are same.
Mm. And I wanted to also acknowledge the fact that this goes without saying that this is traditionally what, Mom and I are used to, but we also understand that there may be some people, and we even discussed this in another holiday episode, that this time could be difficult for some people for a variety of reasons. But we did want to share, however, some of our memories and things that we remember from our Thanksgivings through the years. I don't know, Mom, if you wanted to say one first.
So I started, I believe it wasn't long after I had kids when we would have a celebration for Thanksgiving, and especially in my own house because I had a little more, to say about how the dinner proceeded and that sort of thing. There was always a part in the meal where we each took turns as we went around the table, and you had to say something you were thankful for. So, if you were 2 years old and it was your teddy bear, then that's what you said, or the old cheesy one of, I'm just glad we're all here together.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's, as I'm getting older now, it's funny. I inevitably know that Mom's gonna say it at some point, and it tends to be near the front end when everybody has their meal prepared and plates have been shared around the table. Mom will say, all right, so why don't we each take a turn and say two things we're thankful for? And it's funny now that we're older, it's like, oh, Mom, oh, that's not weird at all, and whatever. But it is kind of fun and funny in some cases to hear what people come up with. But
It is, but it's also a really great time. I mean, that's what it's for, right? Thanksgiving. And we're not, I think, as a society in the habit of focusing on the things we are thankful for, right? Because it can be a rat race and comparing one thing to the next, and to actually step back and realize how much we do have and how blessed we really are. It's a good opportunity for that. And yeah, it's kind of weird and cheesy and all those things, but if everybody's going to do it.
right. One that really sticks out in my mind, and I'll be honest, but I'm going to use it anyways. I can't remember if it was Christmas or Thanksgiving, but it was the same setting. So my cousin Carter, which he was our first guest on the podcast. I don't know, how old would he have been? Like 7? Not even, maybe
I
like
don't, I
4
think he
or
was pretty little. Yeah.
yeah, little enough that when we all sat down and we were like, okay, who wants to give thanks? Carter said, I do. And we were all like, okay. So, we all bow our heads, and it was something to the effect of, Dear God, thank you for the, and then after a while, we all kind of opened our eyes and looked at him. But at first it was just funny because you just hear the turkey, the ham,
He's looking
the
around
salt.
the table.
And then everybody's like, and we looked over and he's like, when like his eyes are barely open because he's salt, pepper, butter, my fork. Anyway, and Jesus' name, amen. And so that's one of my favorite memories. And you're trying not to laugh because he was being very serious about it because, at whatever age he was, but it was pretty cute.
Yeah, pretty cute. Another one of mine would have been the year that I thought, I don't want to cook a turkey and everything that goes with it. So I chose to do things differently, and we had kind of a soup-a-palooza, and I made, 3 or 4 different kinds of soup, and we had French bread, and I don't know, maybe we had salad too or something. But that was kind of neat because it wasn't like the old ho hum. Like, yeah, it's great to eat turkey dinner, but if you're lined up for 2 or 3 in a row, it can get a little bit much, and it's a lot of work. So I thought
Yeah.
cool to do something different.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, it isn't about the standard cookie cutter turkey, ham, potatoes, carrots. It's about getting together and talking about what we're all thankful for. And anyway, I don't remember doing that, but it sounds like something you do. And we've done other similar things through the years for different occasions where mom's like, why don't we just do this? Like, I remember going to Grammy's not long ago when we had a soup night and we just brought all the stuff in and whatever. But um, the only other thing I have to say about Thanksgiving is that if you haven't had Costco pumpkin pie, I don't know what you're doing. First of all, the price. Second of all, the taste. Third of all, the size. Like when Thanksgiving rolls around and those pumpkin pies end up coming out at Costco, like by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, between Eric and I, we've already eaten like 2 whole pumpkin pies between the two of us. Like,
We lie to ourselves, right? Oh, I'm just gonna pick it up early, so we'll have,
right,
and then it's gone, and you're buying another one. But
right,
yeah, and I
exactly.
gotta say, I'm not a fan of commercial baked goods because they don't taste good to me. They don't taste homemade for the most part. But that Costco pumpkin pie, it's pretty close.
Damn pumpkin pie. I think you probably like it because you're not much of a crust person and it's the thinnest crust. So,
No, no, I am a crust person, but sometimes I forego the crust for the guts
oh,
of pumpkin pie.
oh, okay. I guess it was misperceived on my part.
Yeah, and it's the whole, I don't know, yeah, the pumpkin pie, but also it's the time of year, right? Things are cool. I mean, I'm a fan of spring and summer. Fall's okay. I just don't like what comes after fall. But the the crisp weather with the sunshine and the crunchy apples and the whole fall thing is kind of neat.
Yeah,
Just
I love Eric and I always go apple picking every year and we go to the same spot that he went to when he was just young and went with his grandparents. So I love to do the apple picking and while we're there we buy some jams and jellies and whatever. We also sometimes do corn mazes or just even going out for walks when it's, like you said, like the crisp air, but it's sunny out and the leaves are changing and some have fallen. Like Thanksgiving isn't just like a weekend. It's kind of like it's a vibe, you know what I mean? The
sending it.
Starbucks pumpkin
I was just
spice
gonna say, like, suddenly going for the specialty coffee seems like an adventure.
and the sweaters all snuggly and the Halloween Town movies come shortly after that. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it sure is. So, in the true spirit of Thanksgiving, we're going to look at the psychology of being thankful. So, I kind of feel like thankfulness is bigger than just one day a year that we get together and eat a lot of food. I don't know. What do you think?
It is. And in Philippians 4:6-7, it speaks on how not to be anxious or worry, but to pray and give thanks. And so this is not just on Turkey Day. So
I
it's
think
kind of
that was
this.
rules for always, not just.
Right. And it's the same as things like pick any holiday or whatever, Valentine's Day. It's not the only day that you have to treat your partner to flowers or chocolates. You can do that any day of the year, you know?
Right. So, besides being told not to worry in the Bible, thankfulness is also an awesome mindset to practice. We've
Yeah.
all seen people who've got everything and they couldn't want anything more, possibly, but they still somehow feel miserable. And while others have absolutely nothing, but they seem to be the happiest humans alive. Like, how's that even possible?
Yeah. And we've discussed in previous shows, it's the difference in our perspective. And sometimes we need to work on this, maybe sometimes a lot, to see things a bit different than we had before. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being down and out every once in a while, but mom and I are talking like generic. And overall, some people are just overall miserable and have a negative outlook. And it seems to be that certain people always have negative things coming their way, but they also seem to be the same people who have a negative outlook of, well, my life sucks. And then boom, 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 here's 1,000 other things.
Mm, yeah. So expressing gratitude can be profoundly uplifting to your health and your happiness, and it can help you to discover what really matters to you. So, for example, we're going to do a little experiment here. So, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about, let's say, 3 people that you're extremely grateful for.
Maybe not a couple minutes, but a couple seconds.
However long.
All right.
How slow or fast do you think? So, okay, if you get your 3 people, now think of why you are grateful for those people in your life.
Yeah, and maybe it's because they are your partner and you can't imagine doing life without them, or maybe it's a friend at work that just makes your day better when you get to work. But those are great places to put your mental energy because they are comforting and help you feel supported.
Right, right. So those 3 people that you just thought of, if you're feeling thankfulness for them, it makes you feel loved. It just
Yeah.
feel included, and it's it carries on whether you think, gee, I'm really thankful for my dog or whatever. And then you get the good, the happy emotions that go along with the memories, and it's like playing string art in your brain, like we talked about. One idea leads to the next, leads to the next. And if you're busy thinking of things that you're thankful for and good in your life, then yeah, that is pretty uplifting.
Yeah. And another good example or a thing to think about is how is where you are in your life now different from a year ago? And who or what aided in that growth? So we'll give you a second to think about that one too.
So I'll speak on this one. For me, the last couple of years, I can think of a few people that really stepped up and helped me, not because they had to. They were just being kind.
Mm,
And I'm really putting forth an effort now, people that I am thankful for. Sometimes, when you take a few minutes to reflect, or for me, it was last Christmas, I sent out a few messages that said, like, hey, I really appreciate what you did for me, and you didn't have to do that. And it really helped make things a little bit easier for me. So just the act of recalling how somebody could be so kind, and then feeling good about, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like, are they going to think I'm making a big deal about whatever? But to just acknowledge that, and that alone is reciprocal, right? To
right.
For somebody to be recognized for just being human, being kind, the way we should treat people all the time, I guess. But unfortunately, it's a little bit less than it used to be.
Yeah, and I was just going to bring attention to that fact, the fact that just reflecting on my last year, there have been, my mind went also to people who have been there or not been there for me. I've gained a lot and I've lost a lot, but it's all for, not to be cheesy, the greater good. It shouldn't, I've reflected a lot this year on it, shouldn't be challenging to keep relationships with people or to keep certain things in your life that you thought you loved, but it's just challenging and you don't enjoy it. So there's a lot to look at, but there's definitely been a lot of growth since last year. That's for freaking sure.
Yeah. So just right there, we gave the example of a couple different things that we asked you to think about, that you were thankful for. And I think we'd all agree that those brought on positive feelings for us. It feels good to look at the good sometimes, and as a rule, myself included, sometimes we don't tend to do that for ourselves. Look at the positive, you know?
Mm. And yeah, you can just also think about what skills and abilities that you're thankful for that you possess. And even if you find this difficult, think of things that people commend you for. Sometimes that's easier. A lot of times we don't see the good in ourselves, and other people can see it first. So if
So
someone
true.
has, what's that?
That is so true.
Yeah. So if
So
someone has called you thoughtful or handy or creative or whatever, it's sometimes easier to think of what other people have said about you in the past and just how you can be thankful that you exude those traits.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so, out of all of the factors that we contribute to people's successes, we all know that a positive mindset is one of the most important ones. And with a gratitude mindset, you can focus on the infinite opportunities available in all areas of your life. Because when you are grateful, you focus on the positive things more than the negative things. And it's funny, I just saw a video the other day online, and I don't know how accurate it is or isn't. But for the sake of this, it plays along to what we're trying to explain here. Um, the video had said that the part of the brain that kind of houses the feeling of anxiousness or anxiety and gratefulness are kind of next door neighbors. And so they say that people who are feeling anxious, so negative thoughts, things like that, if you start to think of what you're grateful for, you can't be both at the same time. Supposedly, that's what this video said. And he was a scientist, but I don't know which scientist it was. So, but very interesting if it is accurate. But it's just it, but it's also true in the sense of when you're experiencing anxiety, they say to focus on the five senses. So it kind of plays into that. So to focus on the positive, it's kind of hard to revert back to negative when you're thinking of all of the great things that you have.
yeah. Because if you have the gratitude mindset, you know, also you're focusing on more about the opportunities. Like it's more of a forward looking, right?
Mm,
See infinite opportunities available, maybe in different areas of your life that you haven't seen before. When you're looking down, you know, mentally or physically, you can't see what's ahead of you, right? I guess with thankfulness, it's more a forward looking motion. And when you're grateful, you focus on the positive things more than the negative things. And then it's almost like it sort of attracts that back to you. Because have you ever gone shopping for a car? And you're looking, you know, you're looking in driveways or you're looking for ads that you
yep.
read about and you're doing a drive by, see if, you know, if it's in good shape or whatever. And for weeks after you've even bought the car, all you see are cars for sale. It's so bizarre. And not just using that example, like, and I think that there's got to be something to that. So when you focus on something, I think it was Tony Robbins that said, and was it where focus goes, energy flows, or
Yeah.
there's an what you think about, you bring about. So I think there's really something to that, you know, and if you're focusing on being thankful for the positives that you do have in your life, it's almost like it brings more of them to your attention.
Yeah. And gratitude will change one's perspective and create an abundance mindset, like Mom was saying. So, again, it's however, which way you want to look at it, whether it's manifestation or if it's just a positive outlook on life or fake it till you make it or just being grateful and thankful for everything and everything. Everything and everything. I'm not thankful for saying that twice, but anyways. Um,
Well, I will tell you that the opposite of being grateful is the victim mindset. So often we see this, unsuccessful people tend to have that mindset of blaming others, it was their parents' fault or their kids' fault or their ex-spouse or the government, the weather, bad luck, or, Murphy's Law. And they perceive a lack of opportunities. So, hey, guess what ends up happening? It's almost like they're having a lack of opportunities. Go figure.
Right. Who would have thought that would happen, right?
Yeah. So if you look at your life from the glass half full perspective, it's like you always have enough. But if you approach it from the other way and you see it as half empty or in a position of lack, it's as if you never are satisfied. You never have enough.
Yeah. So if you do have a secure roof over your head, food to eat, and you are in good health, then you are already luckier than the majority of the world's population. And once you realize how lucky you truly are, you will start to notice the opportunities and advantages that you have at your disposal.
Yeah, I think that's true. And you see it a lot if you look at people. I mean, let's face it, we all know really negative people and we all know really positive people. And yeah, I think the ones that are thankful do sort of draw more positive opportunities towards them.
To put it plainly, I've never heard of someone that was positive and then ended up saying, so much negativity is coming into my life.
Right.
You never hear of that. Why? It's not because they're hiding it. It's because what you think about, you bring it out. Mom already said it, right? So it's just straight that to the point. So whether you perceive a situation to be good or bad, it's all up to you. It's all in your power and ability. But remember, you always have something to be thankful for, even at the very least, the breath in your lungs. Pick something.
Right. So thank you for joining us today. And a little bit late, happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
If you or someone you know has a unique story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at theimperfectpodcast@outlook.com.
For more information and how to connect with us on social media, you can visit us at our website, theimperfectpodcast.ca.
And from whichever platform you are listening to this episode, be sure to like, share, and leave us a review. We would really appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
We look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing you all find that extra joy and embrace your own imperfect.
See you next week.